Welcome back to the YouTube channel Is Fire For Me. I'm Jesse, and this is Kim.
Hi.
And we are here for another Frugal Friday. What are you laughing about?
I think I heard you talking, but my face wasn't ready, so I was kind of mean mugging the camera.
Oh. Kim, what chapter are we on this week?
We're on chapter 28 of this book, as everyone knows. It won't be dull, we promise. It's easy to assume that living without spending much will be all samey and unstimulating and lonesome. Gather round, dear readers, and let Annie tell you a tale of a poor village in the wilds of Transylvania. A couple of years ago, I spent some time on a farm in a small, self-reliant Romanian village and was utterly astonished by the degree of socializing taking place daily. I had envisioned life in a traditional agrarian society to be defined by days of long, repetitive toil off in some field. Perhaps a bit of a chin wag or a knees up at the end of the day to relieve the boredom if you had enough energy left or could get your hands on some grog. But while work in Reagan did occupy most of the day, it was not only diverse, but so chock full of wheeling, dealing, and problem solving that it felt more like bouts of vigorous exercise interspersed with gregarious socializing. A sample day might consist of rising at dawn to collect eggs, only to discover that the goats have nudged the bar out of the stall door and escaped to graze a neighbor's field instead of waiting to be tethered near the brambles you wanted them to eat. A mad goat chase through the dewy fields ensues, and the neighbor helps catch the goats, then returns with us to the house to discuss the extent of the damage done. Coffee is drunk, and sweet bread, in homage to the neighbor's presence at the table, is produced in place of the usual corn porridge. Some outrageous flirting goes on between the adolescents who have wandered in to see if anyone is eating anything good, and an offer is made to transport the neighbor's excess roosters to market that week to smooth over the goat incident, perhaps. Everyone eats and laughs, and once the visitors leave, we set off to hoe the field up the road in preparation for potatoes. On the way, we have to stop and lean on the fence posts of every field we pass to exchange lewd jokes, mostly constructed around husbands and wives and livestock, to update old bargains and strike new ones, and to be accused of being drunk, since we thought chasing goats might be a better way to greet the dawn than making corn porridge. After 3 hours hoeing, overlaid by much yelling of jokes and arguing about politics, and interrupted at one point by a man appearing from the forest behind us with 3 huge poles he has cut to give to us because he has seen wolves in the forest just that morning and they are hungry and we may need to fend them off, we walk back to the house for lunch. A destitute old lady is waiting in front of the house. Apparently, she was once from a very good family, but they're all dead now, so she walks around asking for charity from different people each day. She can't make it up the front steps, so we carry the table outside and bring our fried cabbage and onions and corn porridge out to eat with her. We walk back along the street, more banter along the way, to continue our hoeing, but the rainstorm suddenly sweeps in, so we gather up tools and sprint back to the house to sort bean seed from last season while chatting and listening to fuzzy pop songs on the radio for a few hours. A neighbor's small son prances through the mud to announce that we're wanted to inspect the progress of a plowshare his dad is fixing for us. We dash down the road under a tarp held aloft, and after agreeing on how to proceed with the repairs, we meander into an extended conversation about town goings-on, how many violinists will be needed for the Onion Festival next week, and when the cherries will ripen this year. In fact, perhaps the blacksmith would like to be paid in cherry brandy for fixing the plowshare. Should we just pop home now and get some for him to sample to help him make up his mind? We do, and we all drink some cherry brandy, and the blacksmith brings out poppy seed cake to accompany it. As we finally make our exit, he suggests that we might like some help pulling the hay out of our barn loft. We accept his offer, and after we all finish the job, he sweeps up a barrow full of hay to feed the horse he is keeping in our spare stall. We visit a lady at the end of the village, more banter en route, who apparently grows the best vegetable seedlings and, incredibly, stay only long enough to collect the seedlings, help her coax her husband, who is a drunkard, back into bed, chop some wood for her, as everyone knows that the husband is no use for such things, and philosophize with her about the nature of alcoholism and the fact that she manages things better without him anyway. We spend several manic hours attempting to get all 500 tomato seedlings into the ground before dark, and just make it in time to feed, water, and shut up all the animals. We are out of bread, so after washing ourselves and putting on warmer clothes, we stroll through the village night dotted with yellow lamp-lit windows and the melody of the creek's rain-swollen gurgling, and spend half an hour loitering by the shop, which is also the pub, counter, catching up on any events of the day that we are yet to hear of, and being regaled with tales of trees that collect gold around their roots by one of the old men in the corner. We leave with our bread and also some sugar to take to the shepherds up in the mountains who are looking after our sheep for the season. If this rain continues, the path up the mountain will grow boggy, so it is best if we hike up there tomorrow with the anti-tick medicine they need for our sheep. And they will appreciate sugar and also some onions from our garden to go with all the fresh cheese they will feed us. Back home, we will drink a large beer, talk, cook, eat, and sleep. Comfortably as rich a day as one spent going to work and then going out to dinner and a movie with some friends afterwards. You may consider this narrative to be largely irrelevant to your own life, given the culture and location in which it takes place. But read on, beloved reader, for the 3 tips to follow focus precisely on how mixing the practical with the social and not sourcing all that you need via purchasing power can help to create a lifestyle dense with frugal diversity, no matter where you live. And the next 3 tips are do business with friends. People who need people are the luckiest people in the world. And have a fine old peasant time.
Okay. So, what are they trying to get us to get out of that section?
That it doesn't take, I think this last part summed it up. Not sourcing all that you need via purchasing power can help create a lifestyle dense with frugal diversity no matter where you live.
So, not having to buy everything to be able to claim that you have a good life.
Yeah, I think it's something along the lines of, like they were saying, you can have a good time getting together with friends, having dinner, going out to a movie or something, but you could have equally as good of a time foraging for food with someone that you like as you're both kind of reading a book and trying to see like which of these things are edible and which ones aren't, and you're Googling it. And I think that could also be fun, and that wouldn't cost any money. I think a lot of us have set up our lives to not be very simple and to not be very frugal. And so to think of frugality as being something that can be fun, I think is not always something that we see, go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And so when you think of this day, I mean, there were so many social interactions. There was so much like diversity in what the people were doing. I mean, even from one day to the next day they were going to be hiking up to where their sheep are. And so they're going for like a really long, purposeful hike, but that's going to be completely different than what they were doing that day, which sounded more like planting and farming and growing. So I think, I'm not saying that all of us have a more agrarian lifestyle accessible to us, but if you have a pretty simple lifestyle and you don't have to spend all of your days working, you can find a lot of other things that are simple, that meet your basic needs, that I think could also be fun and interesting and different.
Since you read this book countless times now, what different things have you implemented to try and take advantage of this chapter? Can you think of any that have worked?
I think some of it is even a mental shift. I think some of it can be just thinking about things differently. For example, last fall, and even still sometimes when I have a little bit more time and I walk to do my errands, I find that, within that couple of miles, I'm seeing things and noticing things that maybe I hadn't before, or I'm listening to a podcast that I find really interesting. And that doesn't have like the social elements, but I feel like it has a lot more intentionality behind it, and it's kind of a slower way of living, which I think can be really beneficial in a lot of ways. I think sometimes if you can find ways to like barter with other people, which doesn't happen as much now, but I feel like when we used to live at our house in Port Orchard, we would sometimes do like fruit and labor and food swaps with our neighbors, and it felt a little bit more country-esque and kind of like something that you would do more in the country as opposed to where we live now, which is in more of a city. I also know that every time I read this, I always think that like, oh, I'd love to incorporate more things. But again, it's a matter of whether or not you have the time. I mean, most of us don't have our lives set up in a way where we just have a whole day to be chasing goats and talking to people and bartering and eating different types of breads and making bread and trading. And, like it's a totally different setup than I think you find in sort of our modern capitalist society where we're all rushing off to jobs and barely getting home in time to make dinner and stuff. So,
But maybe this is more of a life that if it appeals to somebody, they can start working on setting up that will ideally cost a little less to live off of and get you to that early retirement or financial independence, however you want to look at it, sooner, to where sure maybe you're not retired in the fact that you're sitting back on the beach every day, but you're doing things that bring you more pleasure with your day and but aren't costing a lot to do. You don't have to go out and get food. You don't have to go to the movies and spend money there, and so you're not stuck working all day long to pay for those things that you might currently be doing to bring you joy. Gotcha. Okay.
yeah.
Well, that's interesting. So, what do you want to hear from these guys on what they've maybe done?
I'd love to know if anybody's come up with like a really good bartering and trading system where you live and kind of how you did that. I think a lot of times us here, we don't do that and we don't think of that, but if I happen to really be good at only growing tomatoes, how do I trade those tomatoes with someone else to get something else that I need? Kind of how do we get more of a collaborative sort of society where maybe we don't have to purchase as much, but we can do a little bit more bartering and trading? And I'd love to know if you've had success coming up with something or finding, a system for that wherever you live. I'd love to know, what people are doing on that front.
Yeah, and even if it's not you, but you've heard of something out there that you can point us towards, feel free to recommend those in the comments section below too. So, all right. Well, that was great. Thank you for coming along with us in this journey of this book, and we're excited to keep sharing more of it. We are, what did we say, 28 chapters out of, I think there's 52 or something in this book total. So
I think so. Yeah, 51.
So we're coming up. We've passed the halfway point, and we'll end up doing this for almost a full year by the time we're done. So thank you for joining along, and we'll see you in the next video.
Thank you.